Hi everyone and welcome back. This is Sky coming on to talk to you about the December comprehensive astrology. I hope you're all doing really well. I'm excited to come on today with a nice coffee and talk to you about the month of December 2022. What an interesting time to be talking about. We have somehow made it to the end of the calendar year 2022. It seems like yesterday I was making the 2022 year ahead forecast. I'll link that video below if you want to do some retrospective on the year and think about, ending the year and what you might want to still work on before this year ends and before we move to do the 2023 year ahead forecast, which will be happening sometime in December. Keep tuned to the community tab on my channel, as well as the Patreon, the Discord, and other social media. I will be giving you guys updates about when that live premiere of 2023 year ahead forecast will happen. I'm super excited to ring in that energy with you all, as we are just really in one of the most significant thresholds that I've felt in a long time. This time between like November 2022 and March 2023 is really significant to a lot of people's larger life paths. I think that we're having experiences here, ceremonies here, victories for a lot of people, promotions, graduations, all of that kind of stuff is coming through to bestow upon most people a new type of orientation to the world. So that's the first thing that I feel about December 2022 is a new orientation coming in. And it might not be directly in December for everybody, but this is starting that thread here. So let's move into the intuitive messages, and then I'll get some charts up on the screen to talk to you guys about the specific transits. So intuitively, December 2022, this is very important, okay? The daily actions, the methodical nature of what you do, the level of discipline that you have is really important here. I mean, there are things that can still go wrong, okay, based on the daily actions now. Things are not really given yet. Things are not guaranteed. And we might kind of think, okay, I've been working so methodically throughout the entire year of 2022. Well, it's not quite over yet. And there's still a need to be putting in the work and a need to be, not just kind of, falling into stillness or falling into any kind of laziness here is important, because we do have this, Mars retrograde continuing in Gemini, and we have a really strong Sagittarius injection of energy that I think is hard for a lot of people. Having had Jupiter in Pisces as well, we're kind of like very watery, right? Coming from Scorpio season, having the Pisces stellium that was happening. It's kind of a shock, I think, for a lot of people to suddenly reactivate in a super fiery sense with all this Sagittarius energy, and then also Jupiter preparing to move into Aries again here in December. So that's what I want to tell you all about. It's like water and fire elemental dominance. There's a very kind of like steamy quality, right, as the water is replaced by a fiery type of energy. So what that says for us energetically is that we don't really need to rest as much here. This is not a time, I think, December 2022 to just like lay down and turn off. Okay, although I think a lot of people are so exhausted or so worn out from this entire year, having had all that 9 of Wands, 10 of Wands energy, having just come out of the Saturn-Uranus squares. It's very possible after that eclipse cycle that we had in October and November that a lot of people are just like, okay, I'm exhausted, I'm bowing out. Like, I do see a lot of people actually doing that in December, and I wouldn't really recommend that, because there's something that's still needing diligent discipline to sort of radiate or to manifest itself in totality. So it's kind of this lingering feeling of things not quite being complete, not quite being done, and not just naturally resolving either. So for some people, that's very uncomfortable. There is a possibility of discomfort in December if you're someone who just wants to get on a plane and go on vacation now. That time is not yet. We have a lot of time for stuff like that in 2023. I mean, especially if you're a lucky person who's been working really hard over the last few years. We also had a lot of time for that in 2020, didn't we, with all of the, return to home and sort of powering down then. So I think that a lot of people might have gotten accustomed to kind of, having like a day schedule that has like a majority power down or a majority rest, and then a slight amount of methodical work, which is not totally bad. I actually think that that's in alignment with the evolutions that have been happening recently. Like, there was a need for people to rest more and then to have more poignancy and more more precise kind of laser focus in the work that they actually did. So here we need to apply that and start to, I think, expand our productivity or expand our motivation in a way where it becomes more precise, because we've seen over the last few years unprecise productivity, unprecise motivation. And I think December of 2022 can actually be one of the first months for a lot of people where they see what it's like to have truly precise productivity, truly precise motivation. And it's also really likely for people who've been working really hard to kind of worry about having time off. Especially if you were hit by the Saturn-Uranus squares very much, you might be seeing a conclusion coming towards the end of December or into January. You might be seeing, okay, I've totally completed that gamut. I have surpassed the gauntlet, or I stand to very soon. What does that mean when I overcome that? What does that mean when I have to, start to stake my next path? I will tell you guys that that's one of the best places you can be coming into 2023, is going to be in that place of, what's next for me? What's the next path that I'm staking? And it has to be kind of a very humble feeling. This is not kind of like the arrogant, domineering, victorious person thinking, what do I take next? It's not going to be like that. That has actually kind of been here in 2022, and that's one of the reasons why a lot of people are so exhausted, is because that's really impossible to maintain. It has to fluctuate a lot. That feeling of primacy, or that feeling of like, I'm getting like to the strongest point that I've been at, is not something that lasts, okay? That's something that, kind of like crescendos and then decrescendos, like it builds and then it falls. So I think that we also have to understand, if we've really come to that pinnacle, we also have to start creating a time to recede a bit, and then yes, maybe understand through December how we can have a more consistent and more manageable, maintainable energy output. Also, there is going to be this feeling in December of seeing what came of things. Okay, so certain decisions, certain paths, certain long-running projects, the ending of those things, the pinnacle of those things, those conclusions will be seen in honesty, as of course, yes, I would say the most significant thing we're having this month astrologically is Jupiter moving from Pisces to Aries, as it's done this many times over the last year and a half. We are faced with the truth about the long-running stories in our lives, the long-running feelings, and the feelings that we keep choosing to evoke in every single story. So sort of like the basis of feeling, or the basis of, selfhood and identity in correlation to the recurring emotional circumstances evoked by every single story, regardless of which one you participate in, is something we have to face here. So what I'm trying to say, to kind of simplify that a little bit, is the person who needs to feel sad in every story, the person who needs to feel arrogant in every story, the person who needs to feel nostalgic in every single story, regardless of what the story is. We have to really start being able to divide these stories up and understand the different types of significances that they themselves are having in our lives, rather than projecting so much. So yes, projection crisis is something that's on the chopping block, should I say, in 2023. The universe is really working with that in 2023, like people who overproject, or people who would rather have their narrative splashed across another person's life, or their ideas about the world, their preferences, just their preferences projected out onto other people, regardless of whether it's right or wrong for them. That would be coming to a head here in December as well. So if you have someone who's projecting on you in your life, you might want to see that now, and you might want to see, like, what are other people projecting on me? Also, what am I projecting on other people? Like, am I seeing... because projection is like the antithesis of empathy, right? When you project, you're not working in empathy, you're working in ego more so. So, we see like narcissism, egotism, really having grown over this last year, honestly, and over these last few years. Ever since about 2019, it started to like really amp up. And then 2020 was like one of the first sort of like counter forces, I would say, to this buildup of arrogance and egotism. But it really kept growing for a lot of people. And then 2023 is going to be humbling. And I think 2022 for a lot of people is already humbled. But through the humbling of certain people, there has been like an even further growth of ego in others. So we see kind of a like question of what this means and the new types of hierarchies coming in. But I'll be talking more about that in the 2023 year ahead video. But December 2022, it's really important to give other people the right to their own experience, the right to make their own opinions, the right to their own feelings, okay? And not having to like force your feelings on other people, and not having to be subservient or subordinate to someone who is trying to like force their feelings on you, or to force an expansion of their sort of emotional grid onto you. Again, right? Jupiter at the anaretic degree of Pisces. It's like very emotionally powerful, and it's been there so many times now. I think it's had like 3 retrogrades on that cusp, so it's like really been expanding that sort of like last emotion of life, or that last grand feeling, because a lot of people got really out of touch with like their feelings and their the paths that are offered up to them that are the most significant. People were choosing other paths, so that's why we've had all those retrogrades, and we should really be seeing by now, even if it's still a little bit blurry, okay, in December, like what that ultimate cause is, what that, most significant path is. And it's important to start working with that in a more sincere way. And to conclude on the intuitive messages for December, I think it would be really good to make a list of what doesn't need to stay after December, like what habits, what addictions, what participations in your life are not satisfactory. Even if you're not wanting to necessarily just rid yourself of those things right this second, it's good to really make that physical. Okay, we're going from Sag season to Capricorn season, making physical, making material the impulses and the feelings. So what do you want to do? Write it down. What do you not want in your life that's really taking up a lot of your life force? Write it down. And I think that there's going to be a lot of hope and opportunity to really redo some of the balances in our life very soon. Anyway, everyone, let's talk about the astrology. I'm going to pull up the charts here. On the left, we have a chart of December 1st, and on the right, we have a chart of December 31st. Okay, yes, so there is a major elevation happening. If you see the way that the chart on the left is kind of like pointing towards the upper left, and then the chart on the right points more towards the center upward angle, we're kind of making more precise our upward pointing energy. What that means is that we're not maybe settling as easily in December. Okay, so we're not just like okay with things being like okay. People really are trying to like get the very like central zest of their life here, and really trying to orient themselves upward here. So there's an upward mobility, I think, in December of 2022, and there's perhaps like an increase in status for some people, or an increase in just self-understanding or self-perception. Okay, really starting to embody your highest self is something that might be a little bit cliche in this time, but I think that it's really possible here. Of course, at the beginning of the month, we have the Sun, Venus, and Mercury in Sagittarius. Really nice, especially the Sun and Venus. That's going to give things a kind of like lucky, fun zeal. Mercury in Sagittarius, however, is debilitated, right? So that means that there can be a bit of attention deficit, or there can be like a difficult learning curve as well. But it's really mitigated, okay, by the Sun and Venus. However, okay, yes, we do have Mercury in Sagittarius opposite Mars retrograde in Gemini. That is hard. It's not just hard, it's very attention deficit. So if you have anything that you're needing to do not procrastinate, okay, in December. Because again, I'm feeling that people also are having to really be methodical and having to really maybe be in the most important phase of some type of long-running project. So to have Mercury-Mars opposition like that, again, Mars retrograde in Gemini is kind of like the energy of a Mercury retrograde because it's in Mercury's sign and it's retrograde. And then Mercury is debilitated in Sag. The mind can be all over the place here, okay? And you want to really, do what works for you, like what is helpful to keep your attention straight, like what sleeping habits, what foods, what environments are not good for your focus, are not good for your attention. I would just not even be in those. And I would kind of switch things up a little bit, actually. This opposition says, like, okay, maybe something that you're prioritizing needs to actually be put at a different time of the day, or you need to kind of like just get real about like what is and is not possible, and sort of orient your schedule or your day based on the most important things. It sounds very obvious, right? But like, you'd be surprised at how people procrastinate the most important things and do the least important things instead. Okay, so we need to really grow up a little bit and do the important stuff here, because there's going to be a lot of time in 2023 for like what's the word? Recreation. Okay. It's not here though. Okay. Once we get into the next cycle, there's a lot of time for recreation and enjoying oneself, and that's not going to feel very nice if we had like failures here, or if we had things like mess up here, and then we're like recreating in 2023, and it's like back when I had the chance to really be methodical and disciplined, I fell through with that. We don't want that. Okay. We want to really go out with a bang, I feel, here at the end of 2022, and yes, have that time for rejuvenation in 2023, because we won't have as much time for rejuvenation in 2023 if we take it here. Again, also starting the month of December, we have this really pertinent Pisces stellium with the Jupiter, Neptune, Moon, and the asteroid Nessus, with Neptune being retrograde. There's so much I can say about that. I kind of wanted to make an individual video about it, but I'll talk a little bit about it here. There is something of a reclaiming of your psychic viability. Okay, reclaiming your psychic viability is sort of the moral of that little triple conjunction that we've been playing with, and it's kind of like barely been coming in and out over a lot of 2022. And it's asking a really important question that kind of varies for different people, because it's the sign of Pisces, right? So it's not really the most precise or focused energy. It can really be flexible. But it's asking the question of like, are you ready to reclaim yourself? Are you ready to take back what is truly yours? Are you ready to not settle for things that are nice, but not quite right, not quite it? And this can be like a debilitated thing. This is not all good. Like, it's very perfectionist, but not in the Virgo way. Of course, this is the Virgo-Pisces axis. It's not a Virgo type of perfectionism. It's more of a like soul level, ancient kind of like deep contextual perfectionism. And what that means is it's like, are you willing to reject everything that your ancestors have worked for to have like a slight amount of comfort right here? Is that okay? Are you willing also to maybe make a certain sacrifice here for some type of promise in the future that might not really be as solid as we think it is? We have these questions of like time and energy and the deep momentum also of what is possible based on like the 1,000-year context. This is, of course, being exactly trined by the South Node in Scorpio, right? South Node trine NESSUS in Scorpio and Pisces. You can actually, in December of 2022, change ancestral momentum in a way that's good, or in a debilitated way too. But I mean, this is just like so big. It's kind of like Holy Grail stuff for some people here. And I like it and I don't like it. It's one of these energies in astrology, and there are quite a few of these, not all of them are this way, where you can't really say that it's a good or a bad force, okay? It's not good or bad. It is, I think, something that a lot of people have really needed because of a certain monotony or a certain lack of significance. There is no lack of significance with this type of transit. Like what you're given here, and this is why it's so good to be journaling here, getting your feelings out on paper, getting your desires and your, not just desires, but like soul level impulses, like the things that the soul wants. Okay, these are not just desires. These are like, I don't know the word, but desire is not right, because sometimes desire is like too skin level. It's like, I desire that $1 million, or I desire that thing of the flesh. It's not quite like that. It is deeper than that, with it being in Scorpio and Pisces like this. It's not like a Nessus South Node trine in like Capricorn and Taurus. This is Scorpio and Pisces. So this is deeper than like money or taste or status or anything like that. This is about like true significance and true like earth connection. as well nature connection, and connection with that which has been forgotten as well. And this is very esoteric, isn't it? Hit the subscribe button below. This is what my channel is all about. It's remembering what has been forgotten, or it's rediscovering types of knowledge or types of ways that have been forgotten. And this is something that I wouldn't really recommend for everybody, because it's not really a safe thing either, but it can be very empowering, and it can be also not. But I think for people, and I know that a lot of people here fall into this category where it's like you might have been stripped of certain promise, or you might have had like broken promises in your life, or you might have had things taken, in a very harsh way. I think for that type of person who has gone through a lot of trauma, or who has been a victim of theft of innocence or anything like that, there is something really strong here, and there is some degree of recompensation, I would say. And be careful with that, and try to think about what the integrity of that means, and really ensuring that you're not succumbing to the same mentalities that the person on the other side had. So basically when the oppressed person becomes the oppressor, that we do not want that. I can see that is something that would actually happen here with this astrology. So there are equal and opposite reactions. I mean, there is physics, yes, but also we have to think about how can we really use some of this energy to not just focus in a direct singular way, but to kind of spread out. A greater sense of abundance and well-being is going to be an important thing here. And this can be kind of hard stuff to talk about. I hope that you guys are, finding something in this message where it's is there an ability to transcend some of these, earth plane hierarchical issues? And also, if you are in this category of person who has made a meteoric rise, or who has really started to rise from the ashes. Phoenix energy, NESSUS Trine the South Node in Scorpio from Pisces and Scorpio, with the Sun in Sagittarius, Mars in Gemini. Phoenix energy, big time here. There is a total change in the dominance hierarchies, and some of this stuff is not pretty, you all. Again, I've got to really remind you, some of this stuff is very cruel energy, and some of this stuff is what some people might. I'm not going to go there, but it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be cruel. It can also be very kind. And it can be the energy that frees people from their own self-imprisonment, or things that free people from long-running ancestral dynamics of lack of freedom, lack of well-being. It can really be channeled in very positive ways. But let's kind of dig into this just a little bit more, because why not while we're here? How do we know when we're working with our life force energy in a way that frees us, and in a way that honors the need for self-liberation, versus how do we know that we are working with this energy in a way that can be crueler and compassionate? I think that it is visible to every person in complete honesty. So I think that everybody knows really well. I think a lot of people hide it from themselves. I think a lot of people convince themselves otherwise. But I think there's a direct and deep knowing that people have of whether they're working with their newfound power or their newfound abundance in a way that is, kind or not. And I think that a lot of it has to do with, are we looking to the past? Are we looking to the future? Are we okay with the present here? Keep an eye out if you're really obsessed with things that have happened a very long time ago now. This can be a sign that it's kind of moving into a dominance hierarchy, which is not really what we want to see with this. Also, it's not that black and white though either. It can be the past still positively motivates people to create a better life for themselves now. So this is a very nuanced energy, this NESSUS Trine South Node in Scorpio. And it's putting, and this is interesting, it's putting a lot of power into a lot of people's hands in ways that we haven't maybe seen on Earth before. So it is more collectivist. And again, I'm not talking politics here. I'm not talking in the way that people would say this, but I'm seeing quite more of an integrative power approach rather than a condensed or like, singularized power distribution. I don't know what that means. I think this is like leading us up to Pluto in Aquarius, because of course we are having Pluto moving into Aquarius in 2023 indeed. So that's just kind of what I'm talking about there, is also evocative of like Pluto moving from Capricorn into Aquarius. And I think that it's going to be very important here with this trine to understand yourself at a psychological level, and to understand your motivations, and to understand why things have changed like this, and to understand what it means also to go from a very disempowered place to an empowered place. And understanding how you can also change your own orientations based on that. So when we're a disempowered individual, that's an entirely different paradigm than being an empowered individual, obviously. And what does that mean? That does mean also that when we change paradigm like that everything has to change, okay? So like you can't be that empowered individual operating from disempowered individual motivational complexes. That will push you back into disempowerment. So, when you're disempowered, right, you have to like do everything for yourself. You have to, you can't really give, you can't really like be integrative in any way. Because self-sustaining and survival is like the complete structure of the cellular force, okay? If that makes sense. When you move into more of an empowerment, this is very different. And if you're in that same operational capacity where it's like self-sustaining at all costs and survival mentality in an empowered place, that can become very parasitic, and that can become also like antagonistic seeming. And I think that there is a rise of antagonism with this trine happening. But because of that means that there has to also be an opposite rising of like love, and an opposite rising of not just protagonism, but like, the force of good. So there's kind of like a more of a consolidating on both sides. And it's going to be very important for people to be able to overcome and really rise above some of their, especially long ago, trauma wounds. Okay, I would definitely see with this trine, seeing that this Phoenix energy is coming in so hard, seeing that so many people have gone from disempowered to empowered. Because of that, because of those miracles, I would say, it has a cost. And that cost, I do think, is no longer wallowing or no longer feeding off of the pain of the past. This is such deep Scorpionic talk, isn't it? With just having come out of such a strong Scorpio eclipse season. And it's important to remember that in the astrology wheel, in the astrological chronology, when we move from Scorpio to Sagittarius, there's a complete burning off of all of that like kind of toxic and sad Scorpionic energy, and that elevates, okay, into the eagle and into the strong and healing and timeless Scorpio energy, which motivates and legitimizes the powerful force of Sagittarius, which, yes, then consolidates that really high place in Capricorn, and has the unbreakable foundation with which to stand on and to overlook the vista and all of that. So that's what we're going through. And the other astrology that's happening at the same time really reinforces this sort of sacred archetype movement from Scorpio to Sag to Capricorn. Absolutely. And it's okay for this time to be emotional. It's okay for this time to still like be so cogent when it comes to the trials of the past, because I don't think that that's really escapable with this particular trine, and people who would try to escape that could just be like suppressing their feelings or not allowing things to come through, which it's suggested that it does come through. And I think that a lot of people can have breakthroughs. I think that a lot of people can avenge themselves here in a spiritual alchemical way, not so much in a physical way. Again, this is Scorpio and Pisces. Don't be angry if you don't see it physically, if you don't see the self reclaiming in such a physical way, though a lot of people will, but it might be symbolic or poetic, because again, this is the sign Scorpio and Pisces. So it might not be like a direct, compensation. It might not be super direct, but you will know it and you will feel it at a cellular level, and you'll probably get some kind of like almost like mysterious symbolic proof of like something really helping you out, especially if you had like oppression in the past, or if you had like a victimization or some type of like trauma wound. I do think there's a correction of trauma wounds here. I think that there is a compensation grid as well that has come through for a lot of people, and now you can do what you like. So there's a new feeling of freedom actually right on the wings of this energy, and being able to make things what you like, being able to really make things, what's the word? Authentic, yes. Just really right for you now. Getting things up to date, getting things up to terms. It's a nice little update energy coming in through here. Moving on, let's talk, what else do I want to talk about? Jupiter is direct, thank God. Jupiter turned direct on November 23rd. We're going to feel a lot more. That will offset the Mars-Mercury opposition. We'll have better focus and better attention to our expansions happening in our life. Also, what else? We have Saturn making way, from 19 degrees to 22 degrees throughout the entire month of December. So it's going to move very fast, and we do have Saturn moving through the last decan of Aquarius now. So just a heads up for those of you with Saturn in Pisces, okay? Saturn return is now starting to queue up. It's not here yet. You won't really be feeling it at all yet. But yes, we are going to be having Saturn change signs and Pluto change signs in the year of 2023. And that's going to be very, very significant. Okay, Saturn in Pisces coming at a time like this is really, really timely. It's incredible. It's a very interesting story that we're looking at coming up. So I would say be excited for that, but also think about emotional mental health. Think about, are you doing well? Really think about, am I emotionally healthy? Am I also healthy from a place of integrity, ethics, and principles? Am I doing the right thing for my life force? Am I integrating well with other people as well? Am I having a lot of personal conflicts, relationship conflicts? What is the status of my art? What is the status of my creative capacity? And how is that becoming materially significant in my life? These are the things we need to already be working on so that we can allow a less difficult entry point for Saturn in Pisces when that comes in 2023. Also for December, but again, that's not happening in December. It's still got 8 degrees, and I don't even know exactly what the date for Saturn going into Pisces is. I want to say it's like February or March, but it's not going to be that long into 2023. Like, it's moving pretty fast now. What else? Okay, Uranus still retrograde throughout the entire month of December. Okay, so that's kind of like Mercury retrograde energy too. Delays, communication, anxiety could be happening, and also maybe confusion about investment or monetary bills, budgets, stuff like that, with it being in Taurus, of course, and so close to the North Node. So we still have Uranus kind of working with the nodal axis, even though it's like getting further away, but it's moving towards them, right? It's moving retrograde. And the nodes always move in a retrograde motion. So it's kind of following the path of the nodes. So there's also this feeling of fiat, this feeling of fake things, this feeling of like plastic and manufactured goods kind of dominating us culture of society. So it's like a cellophane exterior that could be very distracting for a lot of people. So don't let these cellophane exteriors, these like marketing campaigns, distract you from the greater significance, ancient significance that is really at play in the month of December. That could be a big distraction point for a lot of people. Also, anything else we want to talk about astrologically? Pluto moves 1 degree further into Capricorn. It gets closer to Aquarius. We'll talk more about that in 2023. Chiron also moves a degree farther in Aries. And overall, I think that the breakthroughs that people are having here and the long-running completion cycles that are queuing in December will give like a lot for a long time. Okay, there's something here, and something that the 2021 and 2022 year cycles will generate for a long time to come. So try to not get stressed out. The worst thing that can happen here is like letting your sense of overwhelm or procrastination cause more stress or anxiety than it had to. It's important to be methodical. It's important to be disciplined. It's important to be repetitive and cyclical in your meaningful action to generate these sort of like, I don't know, I want to call them like personal nexus of not just energy, but like vitality for a long time to come because of how strong you were now, or how capable you were during this important window of time. Coming through December, just try to keep yourself solid. And also, definitely if you're feeling stressed out, revert to that feeling of long-running momentum. How much is behind you? How much have you already done? How much headwinds do you have here that are supporting you? That can be very helpful. I think that a lot of people get worried about doing things they've done 1,000 times at this point. And it's just like, okay, this is just another day at the job. This is just another day doing something that I'm very familiar with. Why am I giving myself a hard time about it? This is child's play for me. And then also, as we come through that, we have completion there, we have conclusions there, and we, I think, have a big like breakthrough and download of soul significance as well. So anyway, everyone, I hope you enjoyed this. Be sure to keep tuned to my channel, hit that subscribe button, and turn on the bell notifications to get alerted when the 2023 year ahead forecast comes through. Also, if you're wanting to keep up with things, you can check the community tab on my channel, where I will be posting updates for when that's coming. Again, you never really know with YouTube notifications, so you might have to come back to the channel and look. Also, you can join my Patreon page below if you want to support this channel. There's a lot of great premium content over there. And also, I have a mailing list below as well, which I will be using more in the new year. So you can sign up for that as another way to be notified. Anyway, I hope you all have a great December. Comment below and let me know how it's going for you. Much love. Bye.